and welcome to the Aid Station. Today is a very special edition. It is our 100th edition, which we've come to in just over a year, which we're super excited and proud of. And it's very special because I get to chat to a real icon of the industry, Hugh Brasher, event director of London Marathon Events, which obviously incorporates the London Marathon. Hi, Hugh. So wonderful to see you, and thanks for making the time. Really honoured to have you here.
Hi, Chris. It's great to be with you. And the 100th program. It's 100th podcast. It's great that it's had such longevity already.
Yeah, no, really excited about it and really keen to have a chat with you. And I guess, obviously lots of people in the industry know you, but there's definitely some people that don't know all of your background, and I'm certain I'm going to learn something in the next few minutes. But tell us a little bit to start with about your background, how you came to be in the industry, and, where it all started.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on too long because, but I think it just really is, my parents, my father was Olympic gold medalist. He was the pacemaker for Sir Roger Bannister in the sub 4 minute mile. And he was the co-founder with John Disley of the London Marathon. What is less well known is my mother was French Tennis Open champion, both singles, mixed and doubles. So she was a triple Grand Slam winner. She was ranked third in the world. So sport was basically my upbringing. And I think sport is just incredible in terms of what it brings to people's lives. In terms of just, now we know about the mental health benefits that it brings. But actually, I think it teaches you so much in life generally, just about the more that you put into sport, the more that you get out. That however individual a sport might seem to be, it is actually all about teamwork. So coming from a tennis background, Andy Murray, or, centre court, Wimbledon, and he's there on his own, but he's got his team there in the grandstand, his nutritionist, his coach, his team around him, his masseuse, that are there for him, that have been preparing him, they're going to be there for him afterwards. So sport teaches you that the more that you can put in, the more that you will get out. It teaches you teamwork is great. It teaches you to lose. There are going to be people that are better than you. It's as simple as that. But there is nothing you can do about people that are better than you. You just have to be the best that you can be or want to be. And that's a great business lesson, I think. And so, sport was what I was in and what I did. And then I basically grew a retailer called Sweatshop from one shop to 43. And in growing that chain of specialist running shops, we also took over 2 large road races in the UK. So we opened a shop in Nottingham, and Nottingham Council used to organise an event called the Experian Robin Hood Marathon and Half Marathon. And basically, they pulled out. We had 19 weeks to organise the first one. In the middle of that, there was something called the foot and mouth disease in the UK. Yeah. So the event was nearly called off from that. And 3 weeks before that was the terrible atrocity of 9/11. So the challenges that were thrown at was a very small team at Sweatshop in those times were huge. But we believed in sport and running. And then 2 years later, we took over the Reading Half Marathon, which was one of the biggest half marathons also from Reading Council in the UK. So I had a background of sport. I did a little bit of running, and I played tennis. My passion is motorbike racing. Sadly, I fell off yesterday on a practice, but it's all fine. Bike's not in such good nick as I am, but that's the way it goes. And I got into the London Marathon in 2010. Served a 2-year apprenticeship under Dave Bedford, who was the previous event director, and took over as the event director in 2012. And here we are today in circumstances that I just don't think any of us could have imagined, but always are trying to look at the positive side of things. And it is very difficult when you hear of some of the news from around the world, India at the moment, especially. But we do sit here with a London Marathon saying that 100,000 people are going to take part in October, 50,000 in virtual reality, a hybrid event, 50,000 in person. We've got a test event with the government, the UK government, 3 5K events that are happening in just over 2 weeks' time. So there really are shoots of what we hope is the return of what we love to do, which is bring people together, inspire them. And so, yeah, I just, going back to the question, it's really just about, I think it's just my heritage and family life in a way led me to this, but it was never a plan. And I think my late father would be enormously surprised. He died in 2003. I probably then had something in the region of 19 shops. And yes, we'd taken over those two big races. Actually, he died just before the Reading Half Marathon, the first year we took it over. But yeah, just delighted to be in such a position and have such an amazing team of people who deliver our events. Now a team of 80 who are working incredibly hard now and have throughout their time working for the company.
Wow. And no doubt your dad would be immensely proud. And the thing that comes out for me, as so often we see in this industry, is your passion. You just see you lighting up. And I think we're so lucky in this industry, isn't it? The impact that we make, the opportunity to literally change people's lives. And I guess you touched a little bit on, getting ready for London Marathon, the test events that are happening. People all over the world are, and we've been to, in fact, had a fascinating 99th interview yesterday. Diane from the Reggae Marathon in Jamaica, which was country 51 that I've been lucky enough to visit. And everyone's got a different story and everyone's fascinated to hear what life is like. So maybe just a couple of minutes on what's life. I mean, these green shoots, but what's life generally? People are back in the pubs, they're in the parks, there's, grassroots sports happening, all those sorts of things in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in a interesting transitional stage at the moment. I mean, the UK, the vaccination program has gone phenomenally well. We have, I think it's 34 million people have had their first vaccination and about 13 million their second vaccination. And that's of a total population, including kids, of 66 million. So adult population, we're well over 50%. Pubs are back, but not indoors. So it was a huge moment for the UK. Pubs are part of our culture. Another thing that makes me light up is a pub. And yes, we're now exercising. You can now cycle in bigger groups. Something else that I do. So if it's a club cycle up to 15 people, but we're very much still in this transition where we're feeling our way to a more normal society. And, I've only been in our office in London 4 times in the last 15 months,
wow,
which is quite incredible. The last time was actually a week ago. So, and London is changed enormously. It is comparatively empty, in terms of the hustle and bustle of everyday life and the streets and the office workers. It's just not there at the moment. So I think, it is great that society is coming back in the UK, but we have a really important next stage. Stage 3 of the opening up for us is May the 17th, and stage 4 is June the 21st. And that's where we hope that the restrictions that we have in place will be fully lifted. At the moment, we can't travel abroad other than for work. So yeah, it's, but we really do watch what's happening in other places, in Europe, as I said, in India, where cases are either on the increase, and you just have to be careful. But we are hopeful, and especially in terms of what we do, which is outdoor sports events. And, some of the research is now starting to come out to show that the chances of transmission in an outdoor environment are negligible. And of all the things that society is doing, and people are going into shops, they're going into shopping centres, they're going into pubs to to place an order for a beer. Well, actually, it's far safer to be outside, to be exercising. Not only is it safer in terms of less chance of the transmission of the disease, but it's also much better for your physical and mental health. But we really see a polarization of some people who have been exercising more during lockdown and other people who have been exercising less. And I think there's an opportunity for our industry to, I think people now understand that obesity has a real negative outcome should you contract COVID-19, the potential chances of it taking it to a bad place. And so how society starts to look differently at activity and exercise, and how we as an industry can to look to that to provide more opportunity, more events, I think can be a really important part that we can play.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. That whole health and well-being and the mental health is obviously going to be a real key thing. Hugh, obviously there's been many challenges, and I'm always interested to hear those challenges. And, you said, only been in the office 5 times. You've got a team of 80 who you're dealing with remotely. I'm guessing managing that's been a challenge, but, maybe talk a little bit about that. But any other particular challenge? Obviously the never-ending moving start line of when things are going to happen, having to change the format of last year's event and ultimately admirably get away the elite event, which was watched all over the world, and that incredible virtual event that we spoke about just before the MPW conference last year. But what have been the maybe 1 or 2 biggest challenges that you've dealt with?
I do think it is the biggest thing is the communication, and actually communication is always an issue for every company. And you just have to communicate far more frequently, and in different ways. And I think that so many of us, we're now stuck in front of a computer screen. You just click to go to the next meeting. You hardly have a loo break. I mean, it's just intense. And I think that it's also being aware of how that can affect your colleagues and people at different stages of their lives. If you're in your 20s and your 30s and work is part of your social life, and actually you might be in a flat share with 4 or 5 other people, trying to do your work in a cramped conditions with lots of other people, it's very, very hard. Likewise, if you've got kids and they're at home and you're trying to home educate them, which has happened with me. I learned an awful lot about my kids' education, but it's incredibly challenging, and actually gave me an enormous. It really heightened my respect for teachers and how they operate. So I think communication is the biggest challenge, but also agility on thinking, and being prepared to try new things, being prepared to throw something away. It doesn't matter. Let it go. You can always pick it up later. The more you try things, the more you will learn things. And there is nothing wrong with failure. Fear of failure is something that, people get anxious about. Oh, if I fail, it looks bad. That's probably a British thing, where in America, actually, they really prefer entrepreneurs who have failed because they will have learned from it. So I think, the biggest learning is stay agile. Don't worry about making mistakes. Stay positive and communicate, over communicate, because even if you're over communicating, you're still probably not doing enough.
Wow. And so the next question that I always ask is around leadership, and a lot of what you've just spoken to there is about leadership. But, I'm really interested to hear, maybe some leadership tips, some mentors that you've had. Clearly, your dad must have been a mentor in some degree in that space in terms of teaching you some of your leadership attributes. But any tips that you'd like to leave with people in terms of, leadership principles and things that you've applied to successfully negotiate those challenges that you just articulated, please, Hugh?
Look, the first thing I think I say is I am forever learning, and I have a lot of, I have some positive leadership attributes. I have some negative leadership attributes. So, actually that desire to be better is probably the number one thing that if anything is what I try and do. And that would be my tip to anyone is through, I've worked with some amazing leaders. I had the opportunity when we were part of the operational team we were the operational team for Eliud Kipchoge's the Ineos 159. And that was led by Sir Dave Brailsford. And, he's famous for marginal gains and really looking at the detail. And, that was a really, really intense 6 to 8 month project. From start to finish, and an amazing outcome with Eliud breaking 2 hours, the first man ever to do that. So I think I've learnt some really interesting stuff from Sir Dave Brailsford, working with someone called Akin Thomas at the moment and a company called AKD. And this is on equality, diversity, and inclusion. And that is a huge learning curve. I come from privilege. What do I do with that privilege? How do I take that privilege forward? How do I acknowledge it? How do I get into someone else's shoes? How do I start to really understand where they come from? And that is, another person I would recommend that people look to is an amazing coach called Rob Kendall. And he has some books called Blamestorming. It's about conversations. It's about the art of conversation, and it's about the art of listening. And I've worked with Rob for probably 10 years, actually probably longer than that, probably 15 years. And I still have an enormous amount to learn. He is an incredible coach, an incredible person. And would really recommend anyone to look what he does. So I like data, but it doesn't make my decisions for me. It just helps me to make the decision, take in that data, take in other people's opinions, but then strive forward with purpose and believe in yourself. That is absolutely what I believe is important, and that's definitely what my father and mother taught me as professionals, sports people. You have to believe in yourself, and if you look for success, you will find success.
Yeah, that's so great. That believe in yourself, look for success, find success. It's amazing how that energy of attraction works, doesn't it? If you look at the lowest denominator, you'll end up being there. But if you strive and believe you can do it and look for it, it somehow attracts itself to you. Albeit sometimes it takes a bit longer than you expect. So many wonderful things there for people to pick up and take away, and some great references as well. And as always, I love to finish on an inspiring note. And I'm sure you've seen so many inspiring stories at finish lines and on courses and in other areas that you've worked in. Is there a particular story that really stands out that you'd like to leave the viewers with that's going to inspire them?
I think I'm going to try and wrap it up with a few for different people to look at different things. I think even when you go to just the first London Marathon and Dick Beardsley and Inga Simonsen battling it out for 26.2 miles, and then deciding at the end to throw away the competition and to go across that finish line hand in hand. That set the tone for everything that the London Marathon has become. And in that sort of togetherness, in 2017, the London Marathon became the mental health marathon. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, Prince Harry, Heads Together campaign. And that really, I think what they did, and the marathon was sort of the swan song, one of the sort of final talking points, but it's a talking point that has now really changed society. And there was a particular runner there called Rhiannon Mannings. And she, her story in terms of that her baby died, and then 5 days later her husband committed suicide. And the journey that she went on, and the mental health, and that she didn't believe she was good enough, and what running did and how it helped her, and how the marathon helped her. And she's now founded a charity to help other bereaved parents who lose a baby, which has to be the most horrible thing to happen. I mean, I've got a daughter of 11, a daughter of 7, taking them to school this morning, and just was thinking, how would that feel? And I can't imagine it. But her story and how she's turned it around positively, that I think is part of what makes the marathon community, our community, such a great place to be in, and to help those stories come to life, and to help society grieve, move on, and then raise huge amounts of money for charity and for good causes. So there are so many. That's what the marathon does every year. If your listeners have time, Michael Watson, world champion boxer, suffered a brain injury, did the London Marathon in 7 days. His journey, his story, the man he is now, the man he's been, the man he is just incredible. And you talk to him, and his humility, his desire to improve the world is absolutely incredible. So there are so many of them, and it is just brilliant. And that's why the London Marathon and other mass participation events need to come back, because these stories come to life, we bring them to life, and the world needs them to be a better place.
Absolutely. Well, what an inspiring way to finish. And you might have seen that interview that I did with Peter Burrow for the MPW Online Summit, where he basically said he believes that mass participation sits at the very core of what it means to be human, and no more relevant than right now. I mean, you speak about the people that have lost loved ones. How many people have got to bounce back from this? Those people that have had their freedom taken away from them with multiple lockdowns and things. I couldn't agree with you more that we have such a role to play in this incredible community that we have, the bonding together that's come here, the collaboration that we were speaking about before we started recording of this industry working together with all these trials. Hugh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the inspiration. You've certainly inspired me. I have no doubt that you will inspire everyone who watches it and continue to inspire millions of people through the deeds of the London Marathon. Really look forward to catching up with you in person. As we said last time we spoke, hopefully it's not too long for a beer. It's getting closer to that time. The pubs are open. Hopefully the borders and the airlines will open up more soon, and we'll get to see each other. But thank you so much for being my guest on episode 100, and wish you all the best with the test event, and look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you, Chris, and absolutely look forward to that pub drink.
Bye for now. Thanks so much, Hugh.